Breaking information, you are looking at video of one of the final times. Oscar winner information this hour approximately. The situation surrounding his dying. His front door open, scattered capsules on the bathroom countertop, one dog useless inside the closet. The news of Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa passing away at their domestic in Santa Fe, New Mexico, has left the world in surprise. Gene Hackman, a Hollywood legend with iconic roles, beloved with the aid of many, endured heartbreaking abandonment by means of the ones closest to him in ways few ought to imagine. His father, a violent man, walked out on the circle of relatives without a phrase. His mother passed away earlier than she ought to witness her son's achievement on the big display screen. His first-rate buddy, Norman Gary, succumbed to depression and took his personal life. And there are numerous different painful memories that remain in large part unknown. Yet Hackman by no means let the ache defeat him. He lived with power, ardor, and an unyielding determination to fight lower back in opposition to existence no matter his age. His tale isn't always just about the lack of a star, however. The last chapter of a life full of trials, resilience, and an indomitable spirit. Are you geared up to pay attention? The journey of a person who changed into deserted, however, discovered the electricity to maintain fighting? A Hollywood legend, a commanding presence on display. Yet Gene Hackman departed in silence, leaving behind an unsolved tragedy. The news of his and his spouse Betsy Arakawa's passing at their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, now not most effective, taken aback the general public, but additionally raised a sequence of confusing questions. On that fateful day, a worried neighbor known as the police, after noticing that the couple had now not been seen for a prolonged length. When government arrived, they observed Hackman and Betsy had passed away in separate rooms. One and their 3 dogs become additionally discovered lifeless, whilst the other 2 had been nonetheless alive. The scene dispatched chills down the spines of many, as no one had predicted a reputedly non-violent life to result in such eerie solitude. What surely unsettled the public changed into the reaction of one in every of Gene's 3 youngsters. Advised the press that the own family turned into nonetheless awaiting legitimate findings regarding the motive of death, as the couple's passing remained a mystery. Leslie and her sister Elizabeth Jean Hackman speculated that their father and stepmother may additionally have succumbed to carbon monoxide poisoning from a potential gas leak. While the theory seemed conceivable, investigators discovered no proof of one of these leaks. Instead, according to the respectable report, Gene Hackman and his spouse had likely surpassed away days in advance, as there are bodies confirmed symptoms of decomposition. Leslie additionally said that there were no indication of any fitness issues along with her father previous to his dying. Although he changed into old, he'd become in high-quality form, she found out, including that he had now not gone through any important surgeries in recent months. He loved Pilates, yoga, and he nevertheless labored out several instances a week, so he became an exec. What become even greater surprising become that at the same time as the arena became in shock over the passing of the mythical Gene Hackman and his wife, Leslie admitted that she turned into no longer too surprised due to the fact her father turned into already 95 years vintage. Living in California, she had now not visible or heard from her father, who led a reclusive lifestyles for months. We had been very near. I hadn't spoken to them in a few months, but the whole thing was everyday and excellent, she shared. As of now, Leslie has yet to travel to New Mexico and stated that she might not do so till the police completed their research. On February 27th, Leslie and her sister had been spotted eating together at a Denny's restaurant in Burbank, California, performing composed and joyful, according to the Daily Mail. The pics were taken nearly an afternoon after they acquired the news in their father and stepmother's passing. One might assume a loving daughter to straightaway fly out, inspect the scene, and set up funeral lawsuits. Instead, she made a different desire. Hackman's grandson, Tim Hackman, also spoke out. He revealed that Leslie changed into the only family member who remained in touch with Gene Hackman, but in spite of this, they only spoke each few months. Tim shared that the last time he saw Gene Hackman turned into 11 years in the past at his father's funeral. It turns out that in his very last years, Gene Hackman chose, or turned into fate, to live an existence of isolation, indifferent from his circle of relatives and closest connections. The lingering query stays: became this solitude his personal selection, or became it imposed upon him by using destiny? Leslie sold the exclusive tale to the Daily Mail, a tabloid regarded for paying sources to exploit sensational information. This has led the public to impeach: was she really grieving her father's passing, or was she capitalizing at the tragedy for attention? Would a surely heartbroken daughter reflect on consideration on selling her tale, just as the information of her father's loss of life changed into breaking? Hackman was no regular guy. He changed into born into complication, lived with an unbreakable spirit, and in no way allowed himself to be defeated. Yet in a merciless twist of destiny, on the cease of his adventure, he exceeded away in silence, without a loved ones by means of his aspect. After leaving Hollywood in 2004, Hackman selected a quiet life in Santa Fe, New Mexico. He and Betsy lived sincerely, some distance removed from the noise of the leisure industry. No greater lavish events, no more flashing cameras, simply an growing older guy attempting to find a sliver of peace in his very last years. But possibly it wasn't the type of peace he was hoping for. He became finally visible in 2023, eating with Betsy at a nearby eating place. The pics captured an aged guy, frail yet nonetheless sporting the aura of a conflict-hardened warrior. There were no scenes of children amassed by way of his bedside, no tears of mourning from his family, only a person who had as soon as been resilient, yet whilst he took his final breath, no one turned into there to witness it. The folks who mattered maximum in his life, some deserted him at the same time as others. He pushed away. Gene Hackman's dying changed into now not just the quit of a Hollywood legend, it changed into the final testament to the profound loneliness of a man who had lost too much in lifestyles. In the give-up, changed into a destiny that selected him, or did he pick out this fate himself? Gene Hackman grew up in a turbulent household without balance and warmth. His father, Eugene Ezra Hackman, labored inside the newspaper printing industry, but his volatile task pressured the own family to transport often. The relationship among Hackman and his father became strained, as his father became a strict man who regularly resorted to violence in disciplining his youngsters. This created a suffocating domestic environment, using younger Hackman, a touchy but rebellious boy, to searching for safe haven in the basement, in which he carved out a personal space to experience safe. When Hackman was simply 13, an existence-changing event shattered his global. His father all at once deserted the family without a phrase. One morning, even as Hackman began gambling with friends at the end of the road, he noticed his father drive by using N-Wave. That was the ultimate time Hackman ever noticed him, and that second haunted him for the relaxation of his existence. In a 2001 episode of Inside the Actor's Studio, whilst James Lipton requested him approximately that reminiscence, Hackman couldn't cover his feelings, admitting it turned into a tough recollection. He shared, "I became on the stop of the road, playing with a few guys, and he drove through and waved." When Lipton advised that perhaps he had visited his father once more after that, Hackman absolutely nodded in silence, maintaining returned tears. The guy who had taught him subject and violence, who regardless of his harshness becomes still his only pillar of guide, had now vanished. Hackman and his brother were left to stay with their mother of their grandmother's residence in Danville, Illinois. But instead of locating warmth from circle of relatives, Hackman faced bloodless indifference and emotional forget-about from his grandmother, who never sincerely widespread him. These stories formed Gene Hackman right into a strong-willed and resilient individual, however, additionally planted the seeds of rebellion and a lifelong feel of abandonment. Yet this turned into best the beginning. Hackman could hold to battle adversity, and at times he might be the only developing the very storms that shook his existence. Hackman changed into haunted through the reality that his mom turned into the best one in his family, who believed in him and endorsed him to pursue appearing